This is Faith on Trial on Star FM, exploring matters of faith and issues within the church.
Indeed, it is time for Faith on Trial live on Star FM, and we are delighted to have your company tonight. And you can be a part of the show today if you simply dial 0714-414-413, 0772-162-651. Send your WhatsApps, be part of the journey today, as we are going to be exploring the issue of grief. But to get us going, as usual, we select a listener's choice song of the week. And this week, Chenesai Nzira, Sebastian Magacha and Gemma will be our pick, and this is coming out of Mutare. Good evening to you, Privi. This is what you requested. That is the sound of Sebastian Magacha featuring Gemma. This one requested by Privi in Mutare. Chenesai Nzira. If you're wondering how you can also be able to request songs, where is this all coming from? I also want to request a song, then be part of the official Faith on Trial WhatsApp group. You can find the link on the description of our WhatsApp platform. So on the About there, that's where you can press down, hold, copy, paste somewhere, and then you can join using the link and share it with your local congregation as well. And let's get to talking there. 0772-162-651. That is the number to dial. And as usual, we thank you for being a friend of Faith on Trial.
This is Faith on Trial on Star FM, exploring matters of faith and issues within the church.
You're with ET tonight, and welcome into a latest edition of Faith on Trial, where we explore matters of faith and issues within the church. Today we tackle a topic that affects us all at some point in our lives. We're talking grief, and we're going to be giving particular attention to the grieving. The pain of loss can be overwhelming, and the journey of bereavement is unique to each individual. But how can we best support those who are grieving? We seek to answer that, and we dive into religion. Do the religious practices and societal norms that surround us offer comfort, or do they sometimes even hinder the grieving process? Join us as we explore these questions and more, seeking also to find out where does the church stand in all of this. So in the studio with me, I'm joined by two guests, esteemed guests today. Very, very happy to introduce you to Dr. Leonard Makoni, a licensed counselor, end-of-life coach, fellowships with Central Baptist Church as well. Good evening, Doc. Good to have you.
Good evening, listeners. Thank you for having me around today. And
MC Norman is here, a chaplain. How are you doing? I know a lot of people know him as MC Norman. He's got different faces in different circles, depending on where he is. But that's a chaplain, MC Norman Muchazepi from Nyaradzo Funeral Service, also fellowships with the United Methodist Church as well. Good evening.
Good evening, E.T., and good evening, listeners.
We've got the happy gang behind the scenes. We've got Tomekile and Sakile as well in the studio, holding things down. Good evening, ladies.
Hello, Linjani.
Hola, E.T. How are you?
Doing good. Lovely. And as usual, as we kickstart the show, we just like to ask you a quiz question. And today we are talking Catholicism. The Pope is guarded by a small force of soldiers from which country? Which country is trusted to guard the Pope? That's a nice one. That'll get you thinking. Maybe you didn't even know that he had soldiers in and around him. Well, now you know something. So we're going to be giving you the answer to our quiz question right at the end of the show.
Faith on Trial on Star FM. WhatsApp us on 0772-162-651. Call in on 0772-162-651 or 0714-414-413.
So as usual, as we start the show, we like to take a look at what's been trending in the body of Christ. There's quite a lot happening in the body of Christ, and this week, a shocker. A shocker, Sakile. A shocker, Tebekile. What's going on?
Well, it's the age-old question of does age really matter? And it's happening in the church in the United States of America. So, footage of a 63-year-old bishop attempting to defend his marriage to a 19-year-old congregant has gone viral 2 years after the couple first made headlines in their home state in America. And in the footage shared by several platforms, Bishop Dwight Reed, 63, is seen standing in the pulpit while addressing anyone who attended church that morning with the intention of starting some mess over his wife, Jordan Gooddill, who was 19 when she was wed the church leader. So they tied the knot in November 2021, and was reportedly offering special guidance to the teen before their relationship as dean of the church school. It was also noted that the legal age of consent in the state of Iowa is 16, so there's no legal reason the couple should not be together. But still, the over 40-year-old age gap has had, tongues wagging.
Wow! So I think we've got the bits of the sermon, because he included it in his sermon on the pulpit.
Yeah.
Let's hear it.
That's my wife, and she grown. She didn't need nobody to sign no paperwork for her. Now, if this was out in the streets, y'all be saying she made a come up. But you a hypocrite. So don't you forget the Bible say marriage is honorable.
Ah, man. I guess when you have to take to the pulpit to defend you're in your 60s and you have to defend your marriage to a teenager.
It's quite interesting because it brings the Bible into it. Like, he who finds a wife finds a good thing, and I don't know. It's just...
But, this person is like the headmaster at your child's school.
Yeah.
And then your child marries the headmaster at your school. So what do you do?
It's more like a grandfather vibe.
Yeah.
I think it should be a topic on Faith on Trial. If age matters really in a
But I think there's also the idea of grooming as well.
Yeah.
At what point did the dating happen? Because they started trading 2 years ago, which was around 17 or so. At what point did the whole dating, courtship, etc.? It's deep and dark. And for a 60-year-old to be, now putting out the state's constitution about age of consent and things like that, that's just not something you expect from the past, I don't.
I think the point you realize that you're pulling out the constitution to just give you red flags already. The fact that you have to look for it to justify your actions, that should be a red flag.
As he said, she's grown.
She's grown. And calling the congregants hypocrites. You guys are hypocrites, because he knows that the congregants are talking. You're hypocrites. They don't want the teenage mindfulness.
Yeah. Imagine. And she's the third wife. Ne? She's not even the first.
She's not even the first.
Yeah, she's the third wife.
Is this happening in the States?
It's happening in the States. So, yeah, interesting times we live in.
Hey, Pastor. 0772162651. You can also have your say on our trending story. 0714414413. That line is also available for you. If you're one for the landline, 0242 689-897. That's also one that is available for you.
Faith on Trial on Star FM. WhatsApp us on 0772162651. Call in on 0772162651 or 0714414413.
Well, back in the studio now, I've got a couple of stunned guests here as we are talking about that trending story about a pastor in his 60s needing to use the pulpit to defend himself. You can continue the conversation even on the WhatsApp group. It's open, it's buzzing, and things are happening. Hold down the link in the description on our WhatsApp about, and click join, and you can join the open group there. So this is a part of the show that we call the round table discussion, where we invite your WhatsApps, we invite your phone calls, and we invite our guests to chime in on the meat and potatoes of the show. And the meat and potatoes of the show, as you know, and as you've been waiting for eagerly, is the idea of grief. And in the studio, I'm with Dr. Leonard Makoni, a licensed counselor, end-of-life coach. And I'm also with Chaplain MC Norman Muchazepi from Nyaradzo Funeral Service. And we're going to be talking about this. So maybe let's just set a bit of a foundation and talk about grief itself. From grief yekufirwa, we know that they vary. Maybe let me come to you, Dr. Makoni, to just set a bit of a foundation. What exactly is this?
Thank you. Grief is the internal processing of a death, of a loss. In this case, we are talking of physical death. Psychologically, you go through a response to that death, which evokes certain emotions. You think through. So when we talk of grief, it's how we internally work with mourning. The rites, which is the burials and all that we do in that year, 40 days, distribution of clothes, all those are mourning, and in there includes the psychological, the emotional, the rational part, which happens within. That's grief. And everyone is expected to grieve when there is a loss. So technically, at end of life, coaching, that's why we call it coaching, we expect you to have a sense of anger, anxiety, failing to sleep, depression will come in, shame, guilt happens a lot in grief. These are all expected responses. Your body is physiologically working with that loss. So at a technical level, therefore, we are not trying to resolve your anger as anger management in counseling, but we are helping you to be angry the best way you can as you process your fears, as you process your dashed dreams. We expect that to happen. Your shame, you sit with people, and we do it again. We come and say, oh, shame. And this is a child who feels ashamed that actually didn't put enough money to take care of mom and dad. So they actually go worse in that shame to a place of depression. But we expect that to happen. So grief is allowing you, or grief coaching in this instance, is allowing you to process that loss, that death, the best way you can, your way. It's never the same for two people. Same person dies, 10 children will grieve that person 10 different ways. And by bringing in the coaching processes to allow each person at their own pace, from their own perspective of understanding the deceased, to deal with what they are dealing with internally. Again, it's individual, and it's that peculiar, it's that specific, because it's within me. It's not my brother. It's within me. It's not my sister. It's within me. It's not his sibling. So I walk with that death differently, and we need to acknowledge that there's no straight-jacketed approach. There's no one-fits-all method of grieving. It's as many people as who are affected by that death who will grieve. Just some of the key issues around grief which we need to take note of.
We'll seek to touch on those. Let me come to you, Chaplain MC Norman. This is your daily, at Nyaradzo Funeral Service. This is you. This is what you deal with. Many people might be wondering how you cope with it. Maybe let me start with you at a human level. How are you with regards to what you deal with at a daily level. How do you cope?
Right. Thank you so much for having me, and thank you for the question. So what happens with us is we undergo training so that we are equipped with handling ourselves and applying ourselves to circumstances and funerals as they come. At my institution, everyone who works there goes through a process of induction where we are trained to go through the processes. They come with emotional attachment to families who will be mourning, because we are human. And at times we identify with the people who would have come for services, but we are trained so as to apply ourselves accordingly so that we remain on top of the situation in our conduct of duty.
And you have to be the strongest man in the room.
Indeed.
At all times.
Yes.
Because murkuona zvakawanda.
Indeed.
Yeah.
And the particular zvakawanda, you can't pour from an empty cup. So we need to be strong emotionally. Yeah. We need to be strong psychologically and mentally, as well as there is some bit of emotional intelligence that needs to be applied.
Wow. So that's the voice of Chaplain MC Norman, who is at Nyaradzo Funeral Service, where he deals with these things day in, day out. Mm-hmm. This is him. I should say the last time that we spoke about this sort of thing, it was several years ago.
Yes.
Yeah, they are more composed now on these things. I should give you credit for that.
Thank you.
But as we continue to discuss and dissect this issue, we have a Faith on Trial on the streets, where we have an opportunity to hear what you have to say on the streets with regards to this idea of grief. And like what Dr. Makoni was saying, this is peculiar. This may be, it's not a straight jacket, differs experience person to person, and that's exactly what we wanted to find out when we spoke to you on the streets.
Do stareja vanenge vachimboitira kuti haininde mari yangu ndofana kungoratidza kuti ndemari but panenge pasina kuchema. At the end of the day unenge panenge pasina kuchema, so kuti munhu yega ndiye munhu anenge akatomirwa nevanhu vese zvekuti angoti haachada zvizviri zvatagwa. Ungatiwo munhu ane 90 years anenge achinyengera munhu ane 35 years, hapana zvatichiita.
Asi zvimwe zvacho zvisingaiti zvokuti munhu afira muno muHarare, vanhu vopiwa bhazi renyaradzo, vazhinji havachakwira bhazi renyaradzo kunochema. Vakuenda kunoita matourist, unoona kuti kwakomba kwomufi kwakadii. Izvo zvazvibatsire zvakare munhu afirwa, kutowedzera matambudziko, because muchada kuenda kunofidwa, unopiwa chikafu, kune breakfast, kune lunch, mungonodya lunch yemunhu musiri kunochema. Vanhu vari kuenda kunotarisira kuti kwakaita sei, kwete kufambira kunodya nekuzoshorapodza vadzoka.
Nyaya inongoitika ndeyekuti panofa munhu, handiti hama pane dzimwe dzinenge dzichida ukuru, kana kuti vamwe vanenge vakutotaridza kuti zvafa takufana kuripwa zvakati nezvakati mushure mekunge munhu aita sei afa, but ari mupenyu hazvikwanisi kuita sei kutaurika, but panongofa munhu ndo panotangira upenyu kuoma, kana kuti kuomeserana vapenyu, kunyanya nerera kana vachiziva kuti munhu afa ndimai.
Makulasha machizhi ndo kazhinji kuti imwe chechi ndo inozogumira kutoita sei yakuzotosara rega, vanomborisana so then imwe chechi vandozotoona kuti hatasarenda chisara yenyu muchita zvinhu zvacho isakuenda.
But kuchiri kuchema here kana makuti sitakuenda manje, ko munhu wenyu wamamafambira hatitakukanganwa here zvatafambira?
Munenge musina kukanganwa because vanokwanisa kuyochemedzana vachema umwe wavo, then avo vachisvikawo vachingasiziva kuti kune imwe chechi rese kuti zizotopera zvakanaka kuti pasisare chechi 1 hazvingobuda nezvakanaka, hazviiti otanga matombonetsana then imwe chechi ndopazoti aisitakuchirese takuchisiya muchiita zvamakuita sitakuenda.
Ya machechi havangagone kupindura, but hama dzikamira panonetsa kuti chechi igokwanisa kuenderera mberi. Asi chatinongoziva pamutemo, kana munhu aenda kuchechi vanofanira kuita mutemo kwaienda munhu afa, vechechi vopedza vozosara vogara meeting yavo kana kuti matare avo mushure mekunge chechi yapedza basa. Machechi akasiyana, mumwe anoenda kuchechi kumasinagogu, mumwe anoenda apostori, mumwe akajoina zvigure. Saka nyaya inonetsa ndeyekuti mufi afa munhu wechirume uyu, handiti kana kuti ari munhu wechikadzi, culture yavo ndeye zvigure. Ndopamunoona kuti chechi iri kuita zvayo, zvigure zviri kuita zvavo, but vanhu munofanira kurespekta zvakada munhu zvapinda chechi nezvigure izvi muchazvifambisa sei.
Kozoita zvekare tine paya pokuti vamwe vanhu vangona kuti parufu panoreva nyama handiti panoreva mombe then wepamba kuti tauda kuhwanza nyama yazo kuti isabude pachena zvimwe zvinokonzeresa kuti maconflict nevamwe vanhu vanenge vauyawo kuchemedzana nevamwe pamba ipapo zvinokonzeresa zvekare ngatisada kubva taratidza kuti zvinhu ndezvedu matanga kuzvihwanza kuenda sei munofanira kungosheyawo sezvinhu zviri normal.
Faith on Trial on Star FM. WhatsApp us on 0772162651. Call in on 0772162651 or 0714414413.
So that's Faith on Trial on the streets, and that's exactly what you were saying to us when we were asking you these questions. And it looks like there's a diverse view, varied opinions coming out. Maybe let me start with you, Chaplain MC Norman Manzwe, when you were listening to this.
And as well, confirmation or for every funeral, there is a lot of activities that are happening in the background. Like cry tension, nyama activities. Where somebody mentioned one was for tourism, case of the buses.
So mutumwane bonjira anzi bhazi renyara kutora vanhu vaende kutorism. So what happens? Okay, bhazi renyara dzorashika paya. Have you seen anything strange? Are people lining up in a single file kupinda mumba kana there's a lot of things happening kana pano mashika paya?
There are a lot of things happening. Some will be acting up, some will be sincere, some will be truthful, and some they'll take advantage. We did a road trip kwenda kumba. For example, the neighbors. Makuzoga munoyo nezvinhu zvake nditsakureyo nezvinhu zvangu dzokera kwarai ona kuti uyanga gara netrip yake but sasa wira mukuru ungadi
atoya adati mimi muise chibage chake bhazi ndo zvaangafambira zverufu izvi is secondary to requirement
zverufu ya another business attached.
I'll come to you, Dr. Makwen. A lot is being said here. Maybe let me also hear your view, Manzwe, when you were listening to this.
I think it corroborates these cases we see in the counseling room. There is power, there is fear, there's exploitation. That's what you pick up in every burial, funeral setup. These are at play. There's a lot of power play. Ndini sekuru amnombo ndishanyira nawo mai vanyu vafa and uyiko amsati matombo nditaurira kuti but you knew kuti your hands is sick. Now remember here our focus is the grieving person. So zvetakuita to take our position as ndini sekuru pamwana ari kuchema kumunyaradza. No. Tiripei because baba wanyu wanga wasina kupedza sandini mkwasha wanyu ndiri muzukuru wenyu, so ndotadzisa kuviga mai vangu because mkwasha wenyu haana kupedza kuroora. Tsanganai nemkwasha wenyu, ndini ndiri kuchema, ndini andichengeta hanzvadzi yenyu ichirwara, ndini ndiri kutakura bhazi remuri kutaura irori, muri kuya kuzoungana for weekends and weekends, ndini ndiri kutsvanga chingwa nechire, vamwe munenge muri kutodya masadza maviri tauya kuzonyaradza here kana.
In other cases ndatotumira mari kuti muuye pano
kuzoviga munhu. That's why
repay futi.
You see the exploitation. I want to collect from more than one person. When I have those conversations, nemzukuru yone hanzvadziyo.
Kuripwa the same thing. Just to milk.
You know. So you see it's a sad space. Inini wacho who is grieving, who is bereaved, and this is in a state of mind yekuda kurwisana nevanhu. Ndokunge ndiri kutombozvinzwa zvese izvezvo. Otherwise you say, I give them the money they want. I just want peace right now. Or I have fear. Ndikasadaro vana sekuru mai vanozoti or whoever has died zvirazofambi zvakanaka. That's why you see kuti faith then is taken to task, put on trial. Kuti ndiri kutya sekuru ko Mwari anoti.
Let me come to you, let me see, Norman. You are of the church. You are the chaplain.
Indeed.
Pataurwa nyaya yemaclash anoitika with regards to religious beliefs and faith. Is it true? Is it something that you've experienced?
Yes, a lot of times what happens, firstly, there is clash of religions. Christianity, ATR, other religions per se. Then there's also clash within the Christianity umbrella. Denominationalism, where you have those from the white garment churches of the apostolate against the Protestant churches, against the Pentecostals, against the new church irikuya, my new movements are kuya. And you find that my vafa, we having vana 4 varikubva ku 4 different churches. Challenge ya kutoitika pekutanga clash yema churches, who is going to take lead? Church ya mai pamwe kumusha, but as we are gathering in Harare now, who takes charge? Ye uye kata charge, ye wavamwacha feel offended. Doma 1. Chenche chipiri, my church I not believe in Jesus Christ, vamwa Christ in their doctrines. Image fight. Wes my varipinda kuno town church, you get Kumusha is strong member, full member, ye ATR. So there is tension, there is conflict in every direction. And more so, even in family setups, where some will see a crisis, some will try to take advantage and see opportunity in terms of, and exploit, like Doc said, those who are believing.
How have you handled some of these? It must be tough. I'm imagining it must be tough. Sometimes you get there and you've got an expectation and you've got whatever you were thinking and you are surprised and you are being pushed out. But you mashika ipapo chaplain mushida kuti pama services. How do you handle this?
We have to be careful when we are trading between families in regards to how we are going to apply ourselves. What's important, issues from my institution, Nyarazo, we say, we try to follow a lead, a protocol, a family. They have to detect which direction are we taking. And you tread carefully, apply yourself, and help the weaker brother in a way. Be accommodative to everyone, and everyone at a funeral who is going through the bereavement process. And for our hope, despite our differences in faith, despite our differences in belief. So we apply ourselves to not try to meddle in their politics, but rather lead them to find a common place and a common voice.
So let's hear Tobekile. You've got something there?
No. Yeah, not really. It's just a personal experience that I had during my father's burial.
Okay, let's hear it.
The tourism funerals that someone touched on. Some people say it as I'm taking a break from my life, so the people who have who are hosting the funeral, I don't know what to say, are the ones who take care of you. Like, we got to a point where we were the ones who were waking up in the morning, making sure everyone ageza, everyone amati, everyone. But we are the ones who suffered a loss. My dad had died, and this is during COVID. And, you understand, Wuti, people want to come together and grieve, but I'm also grieving and no one is taking care. So, like, it brings me to the point of the children in the whole instance. What happens to the children? Because a lot of people forget them. As long as the parents, the Vanagogo are taken care of, we forget who the children are also suffering. They are also feeling the loss. They are also in the situation that is happening in that midst.
So did you feel like you're hosting people? Felt like a catering team of some sort?
Yes, I did. Because, like, you are there, you are cooking, you are urukuvesa moto, and like, even when we were, because for me, I had to facilitate the whole funeral. I had to look for the police clearance, take everyone's details, go to the police, and then get the clearance, find the transport, because during COVID, a lot of my funeral parlors were not honoring their policies. So you'd get a policy, there's supposed to be a bus, there's supposed to be groceries. Even once they bring your person, that's it. So everything else you had to figure it out on your own. And the money, actually, sometimes they tell you it comes 3 days after, but then you need money now. But
and all these questions and all these things were put on your shoulder.
Yeah.
But you're mwana who's also grieving and Uruchema at that point.
Yeah. And even like the neighborhood Nyarazo people, they would come, and then when they're getting there, they're coming and then they're telling you, we have things that the community has put together, and then you are responsible for all that. So it becomes too much. And then my other siblings got to grieve. That's how I felt. My other siblings got to grieve, but I had to be at the point where I had to be strong and carry the whole thing.
Dr. Mokoni, let me come to you.
Yep.
So she's speaking from a person who's been grieving, mwana, like what you were saying. How is what we are doing central to this individual, Aruchema? Kana tufungo ozimwe. She says she can relate to Vanoyane bus for tourism.
My take is the bulk of what we do, I call it kunyararidza. You know, we want Tobekile to be as normal as can be. This is where I really struggle, Kuti. We don't have an understanding, Kuti, what she will remember. And some of these activities, the tasks you are given to do because are traumatic. Depending on the traditions, again, I really think we need to remember that a culture was started by somebody. The things we are calling culture right now ought not to be done at all because the environment has changed. The situation has changed. But we keep on, for convenience, going back to Chiwano Chedu. Yet it brings a burden. Now, this person needs to process Kutipafio. Duze Tobekila Ifamba as a zombie because Mampa a task to do. So her time to acknowledge Kuti Baba Wafa was much longer than everyone else. Her time to start processing Kuti, akusisina Baba. Nduda kuchema could easily happen 2, 3, 1 month later than everybody else. And the more we interfere with that internal processing, the more it becomes difficult to live with your grief, with your loss. So we've got a lot of people who are moving around who are not fully functional because they are stuck at some phase of their grief. And that can be anything between weeks to years, decades. People have not processed what happened. Then, of course, if trauma happens, you've been exploited, you carry unforgiveness, which gives you another layer of loss because my relationships don't work as they ought to. She's saying, but my siblings, I hope typically don't hold anything against them, but that happens a lot.
Yeah.
You were just seated watching me, so bitterness sets in. Primary was the loss of a father, but secondary, you are now losing your siblings. You can't relate with them as you ought to, and yet you need them at this point. So we really need to sit down and review some of the practices we have and get to that place, kunyaradza for sure, not kunyararidza one.
So one of the people that I spoke to, when those voxes that we played was talking about the kuti munangari chigure ndova akabva kumushari chigure akaenda kutown and then kutown time ziya achiuya kuchechi takudzokera manje kuti tinoita sei tinochema munhu wedu tosvika takadza zvigure zvakatimirira ukoko. How do you handle that? How do you handle my situations akadaro? Unoita say when religious practice are now clashing and now we feel like we are superior than the other.
Well, the practicalities of that will cause its own hindrance to the processing, but you'll see for a lot of people it's the realization. It's a secondary loss. The father I thought, the mother I thought I had is not. That's a death in itself. And they need to be helped to grieve that. Kuti, baba vafa panapa taifunga tiri 3, but tiri 7. That's not the father you knew. That in itself, that revelation of new things about the deceased is going to be a place of loss. So there is this primary death, but now you are discovering all these other things. It's the same thing like which Baba allows you holidays, you go to schools, you go to Musuanofa. What follows is so a list of security. And you lose your house. Secondary loss. You lose your dignity. So we need to know that what's happening internally, some of it, we will be not privy to a lot of these individual personal issues about the deceased. That's why when we come, don't share your story. Listen to the bereaved. They'll guide you. They are dealing with more than just a death. There are other losses related to that. So that picture of Job and his 3 friends who come and sit, wow, this is grievous. That's what attitude we need to take. Just get there and be quiet. The bereaved will show you how to help them through.
I also posed the same question to you, Chaplain MC Norman.
Indeed, I agree with Doc. Well spoken, Daddy. So, in Zimbabwe, I think grief is a communal experience. It's supposed to be communal, where we share it with the community, the relatives, and the extended family. So, whereby the community will be playing a significant role in mourning and supporting the bereaved. Challenge yataurwa na Doc ndeyekuti vanhu vanouya kuzonyararidza, but we need to come. Chinofana kunzwisiswa number 1, not ministry of presence, just being there and saying nothing zvinosimbisa munhu ari kuchema. And also ngaticherechedzei tione kuti we have to be accommodative. Ticha-accommodata vamwe religions. Everyone needs to pay a befitting send-off. Saka I am of the opinion yekuti kunyangwe ndichibva kuchurch kwangu, even machurches akasangana, we must work on collaborating to ensure kuti munhu wese plays a part and munhu wese is accommodated. I've been to experiences where I am there representing the Christianity side as a chaplain. Then I come to a family, what she calls son, listen, the deceased was a stench member or ATR. But I've worked my way. I would have to work my way around accommodating into shares platform. I wait up their part, then we do our part. But church challenge, they point fingers, they shame other religions when we need to be accommodative and spread love. Console the Yuka brother and help them find hope in their situation.
Have you ever been in a position where keeping quiet and Gomira and you pass Mutapa was the right decision to make?
Yes, a number of times. Nyekuti vanhu vatema vasingazvinzi ndipo vanonzwa kutaura mashoko ekuti mamuda kuti zviitirwani. Mashoko evanhu vasinganzwisise kuti at times you need to be there and just being there. I've been to places where munhu anotobvunza kuti can I offer a prayer? Oti no, not at this moment. And mumwe munhu akafirwa anenge akatotsamwira Mwari. Anototsamwira Mwari wacho. Iye ari mukristu. Any position out of not what not to, but in that moment faith is put on trial.
It's always the right thing to do. Since I trained as a grief coach, I approach Munafirwa. I'm quiet. You try it. In 30 seconds, I give you. They start telling their story. You don't have to ask them anything. They'll guide you. They'll direct you. You try it. Just be quiet. They'll lead you. If you want to do anything, do something practical. Don't ask kuti ndoitachi. Ask kufunga munhu. Apana chatomboziwa kuti wana hana appetite sadza so anofungire kubika. So muriza pada ubikwa enandobika. Pandikana huni unza be practical presence. As he said, it's magic. What those friends that Job did in 7 days, we need to learn to do that.
Indeed.
Just be there, be quiet. It's okay.
And also need to allow them to express themselves, because it's not one size fits all. Nekuti unofunga kuti mumwe ari emotionally ari kuchema baba, mumwe ari kuchema loss ya breadwinner, mumwe ari kuchema ma experiences akanga ainawo. Zvinoka even